The sound of breaking metal echoed across the street just as the morning sun poured over the old industrial district. Sparks flew from a rusted machine while grease stained the trembling hands of a woman who refused to give up. Across the road, luxury cars lined up outside a glass tower where million-dollar deals were signed before breakfast. And standing beside one of those cars was a powerful CEO in an expensive suit, laughing at the tiny repair shop that everyone else had already forgotten. What he did not know was that the woman he mocked would soon rise from the ashes of failure, by the factory he abandoned, and destroy the empire he thought could never fall. Before we begin this emotional journey, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Wisdom Story House, if you believe kindness and second chances can change a person's destiny. Stories like this remind us that the people society overlooks are often the strongest souls of all. The repair shop sat at the corner of Mason Street like a wounded survivor from another era. Its faded blue paint peeled under the harsh daylight, and the wooden sign above the entrance swung gently whenever the wind passed through the narrow alleyways. Inside, Mara Vale worked alone beneath the hum of broken ceiling lights. Her face carried exhaustion beyond her years, but her eyes still held something stubborn and alive. Every morning before sunrise, she unlocked the shop with the same silent prayer that one more customer would walk through the door. Sometimes only two did. Sometimes none at all. The city had changed around her. Massive corporations swallowed small businesses one by one, replacing old workshops with luxury offices and automated service centers. The biggest company of them all was the industrial giant known as Veyron Dynamics, led by a ruthless CEO named Cedric Holden. He was young, brilliant, and feared by nearly everyone in the city's business world. Newspapers praised him as a visionary. Investors worshipped him. But behind the polished interviews and tailored suits lived a man who believed weakness deserved extinction. Mara's father had once owned one of the largest machinery factories in the district. Years ago, Vale Manufacturing employed hundreds of workers and supplied custom parts to small industries across the state. But after her father suffered a devastating stroke, the company collapsed under debt and pressure from larger corporations. Among the competitors who pushed hardest was Veyron Dynamics. Within 2 years, Mara lost the factory, the family home, and almost every employee her father once considered family. All she managed to save was the tiny repair shop attached to the old warehouse lot. Now, every afternoon, she watched delivery trucks carrying Veyron products speed past her cracked windows like reminders of everything she had lost. One bright afternoon, Cedric Holden himself arrived unexpectedly. A black luxury car stopped outside the repair shop, attracting attention from nearby workers. Mara looked up from repairing an old hydraulic compressor as two men stepped out in expensive suits. Cedric followed slowly behind them, adjusting his watch while staring at the tiny building with visible amusement. His polished shoes stepped carefully over oil stains as he entered the shop. The silence that followed felt unbearable. Cedric looked around at the old shelves, worn tools, and outdated equipment before smiling coldly. He asked how a place like this was still surviving in a modern city. Mara answered calmly that some people still valued honest work over flashy branding. The workers standing outside exchanged nervous glances. Cedric laughed softly, not out of joy, but superiority. He said the future belonged to innovation, not struggling repair shops trapped in the past. Then he glanced toward the dusty old factory behind the building and casually remarked that ruins should stay buried. Those words struck deeper than he realized. After he left, the repair shop felt smaller than ever. Mara stood alone in the fading daylight while the sound of his laughter replayed in her mind. That night she sat inside the abandoned factory, surrounded by silent machines covered in dust sheets. Sunlight no longer reached the broken windows the way it once had. The air smelled of rust and memories. She remembered being a little girl running through those halls while workers smiled at her father. She remembered birthdays celebrated beside conveyor belts and Christmas dinners shared among employees who were treated like family. Her father used to say that a business was not built from steel and money. It was built from trust. But trust had not saved them. Tears rolled down Mara's face for the first time in years. Not because Cedric mocked her, but because part of her feared he was right. The following weeks became harder. Customers disappeared as Veyron Dynamics launched aggressive marketing campaigns targeting independent repair shops. Suppliers increased prices. Bills stacked across Mara's tiny desk. One afternoon, the electricity was shut off for nearly 2 hours because she could not pay the full balance. Still, she refused to quit. Every morning, sunlight spilled through the cracked windows as she repaired engines, rebuilt broken motors, and fixed equipment larger companies refused to touch. Slowly, something unexpected began happening. Workers from nearby factories started visiting her shop again. Truck drivers recommended her honesty. Farmers from outside the city arrived carrying damaged machines others had declared useless. Mara repaired them patiently for fair prices. People trusted her because she treated every customer like they mattered. Meanwhile, inside the towering headquarters of Veyron Dynamics, Cedric became obsessed with expansion. He bought smaller competitors aggressively, cut corners to maximize profits, and replaced experienced workers with cheaper automation systems. Investors loved the rising numbers. Employees quietly feared him. Then disaster struck. A defect in one of Veyron's mass-produced industrial systems caused several machinery failures across multiple states. Videos spread online showing factories shutting down and workers losing production for days. Complaints flooded social media. Lawsuits followed. Customers demanded refunds. Cedric responded with arrogance instead of accountability. During a televised interview, he blamed improper handling by clients rather than admitting flaws in the products. That single moment changed public opinion overnight. People were furious. And while Veyron Dynamics struggled under growing criticism, Mara's small repair shop became unexpectedly busy. Customers no longer wanted cheap systems that failed under pressure. They wanted reliability. They wanted craftsmanship. They wanted someone who cared whether their machines worked tomorrow. For the first time in years, hope entered Mara's life. One warm afternoon, an elderly man arrived at the shop carrying a faded leather folder. His name was Rowan Mercer, a retired engineer who once worked for Mara's father decades earlier. He had watched her struggle from a distance and admired her resilience. Inside the folder were old blueprints from Vale Manufacturing, designs for durable industrial equipment her father never had the chance to finish before the company collapsed. Mara spent nights studying those blueprints beneath dim desk lamps. The designs were brilliant, efficient, affordable, and built to last. Unlike the disposable systems dominating the market, these machines were created to survive years of hard labor. For the first time since losing everything, Mara saw a future bigger than survival. She gathered former workers from the old factory one by one. Some were retired. Some had been unemployed for years. Others worked miserable jobs far beneath their skills. Yet when they heard the Vale factory might breathe again, many returned with tears in their eyes. The abandoned building slowly came back to life. Dust-covered machinery roared again beneath the afternoon sunlight. Old welders repaired assembly lines. Broken windows were replaced. Fresh paint covered rusted walls. The factory smelled of oil, metal, and determination. The city could hardly believe it. Meanwhile, Veyron Dynamics continued collapsing under financial pressure. Cedric grew colder and more desperate with every passing month. Investors abandoned him. Newspapers that once praised him now questioned his leadership. Factories shut down across the region. Then came the moment no one expected. The old Vale factory, still technically owned by a holding company tied to Veyron's debts, was scheduled for auction. Cedric intended to purchase it simply to demolish it and erase the last reminder of independent manufacturing in the district. But on the morning of the auction, Mara walked into the crowded room carrying a simple folder and a quiet confidence no one had seen before. She had secured funding through local partnerships, loyal customers, and former employees who believed in her vision. While wealthy executives laughed at her modest bid, the room fell silent when she offered enough to win ownership of the factory outright. Cedric's face changed instantly. For the first time in years, he looked uncertain. The woman he mocked now owned the very factory he planned to destroy. And she was only getting started. Over the next year, Vale Manufacturing transformed into something extraordinary. Mara refused to follow the ruthless corporate model dominating the industry. She paid workers fairly. She invested in quality instead of shortcuts. She listened to customers personally. Every machine leaving the factory carried pride inside its steel frame. Word spread quickly. Factories abandoned by Veyron switched suppliers. Independent businesses rallied behind Mara. Former clients returned after years away. Online videos praised the durability of Vale equipment compared to failing corporate competitors. Then came the final blow. Several of Veyron's largest distributors signed exclusive contracts with Vale Manufacturing after repeated losses from defective products. Overnight, Cedric lost massive portions of the market he once controlled absolutely. The empire he built through arrogance began crumbling piece by piece. One late afternoon, Cedric stood alone outside the fully restored Vale factory. Workers laughed during shift changes while sunlight reflected from newly polished windows. Delivery trucks lined the streets carrying products across the country. The same district he once dominated now admired the woman he humiliated. He entered quietly. Mara was inspecting a machine near the center floor when she noticed him standing there. For a long moment neither spoke. The factory buzzed with life around them. Cedric finally admitted he underestimated her. But Mara's expression carried no hatred. Only calm strength shaped by suffering. She told him something her father once believed deeply: businesses survive through trust, not fear. People may admire power for a while, but eventually they follow those who treat them with dignity. Cedric looked around the factory slowly, realizing too late what he had destroyed within himself chasing success without compassion. Outside, daylight faded into a golden evening glow over the city skyline. Mara walked through the factory floor greeting workers by name while machines thundered with renewed life around her. She no longer looked like the exhausted woman trapped inside a dying repair shop. She looked like someone who endured every humiliation, every lonely night, every impossible obstacle, and still chose kindness over bitterness. And somehow, that became her greatest victory of all. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment where you are watching from and share one challenge you refuse to give up on in your own life. Months later, the small repair shop on Mason Street remained open exactly as it always had. Mara kept it untouched as a reminder of where everything began. Some afternoons she still repaired old engines herself beneath warm daylight streaming through the windows. Customers often recognized her from interviews and news articles, but she treated everyone exactly the same. Because she never forgot what it felt like to be invisible. And perhaps that was why people loved her story so deeply. Not because she became wealthy. Not because she defeated a powerful CEO. But because she proved that kindness, patience, and honest work can rebuild even the most broken life. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House so more people can discover inspiring stories like this one. Sometimes a single story can give someone the strength to keep going one more day. And somewhere in this world tonight, there may still be someone working quietly inside a forgotten little shop, praying for one final chance before giving up. Just like Mara once did.